Hi, my name is Tabitha May. I'm going to be presenting a case for you about Trenton Howe. Due to confidentiality, the names and demographics of my client have been changed for this presentation. Trenton is a 15-year-old male. He is Native American and has been residing on a reservation for the majority of his life. He is currently in foster care, though referred to us at the Flathead Youth Home due to unfit foster care placements that he had been in. His his parents' parental rights are on the verge of termination due to abuse and neglect and not following through to complete the required steps to keep their rights. So, the presenting problem that Trenton has come to us with is inadequate clothing. The sizes are inconsistent. He has holes in pretty much every article. There are many stains. The clothing items are stretched to interesting shapes. They're outdated, and the majority of his outfits are only sweats. He's got a lot of sweatpants, some plain white t-shirts, um, nothing appropriate for a job interview, the first day of school, or court, or anything like that. A little bit about his background. Trenton comes from a low-income family. He's the oldest of two siblings. There's parental drug abuse in the family. And then, as I said before, he has been living on the reservation and is Native American. And we do see a lot of generational poverty in that population. So those are some issues that could be contributing to the inadequate clothing. So my personal perspective on where this issue could be coming from is poor budgeting and low resources. Uh, I noted that his parents were abusing drugs, which means they had enough money to buy drugs and they may just be prioritizing their spending in the wrong way. They do have the money to buy drugs, then they would have the money to buy clothing for their children, and they choose not to. And then there being low resources for the youth on the reservation. The Flathead Youth Home's organizational perspective on the issue is that he's coming from a low income family with generational poverty, and they just don't have the money and the resources to get the items that they need. And my client's view on this issue is that it's a norm for him. It's a norm for those on the reservation. It's not something that he would choose for himself. It's not something that he likes, but it's something that he has grown up having to deal with and hasn't really seen life in a different way. So my goals for the intervention on this case would be to obtain adequate clothing sizes, condition, and up-to-date styles for my client. And the outcome would be improved self-esteem and self-confidence. Wearing those ratty clothes can bring self-confidence and self-esteem down a lot. So when you provide adequate clothing that helps you fit into the population that you're with while he's with us at the youth home, he's going to be in new settings. He's going to be applying for a job. He's going to have court sessions for his family's parental rights and the case of the family. And he'll feel overall a whole lot more confident about himself if he has adequate clothing. So some different interventions for this issue as a whole, but it would also pertain to my client himself, would be to contact local organizations to participate in fundraising. So this could look like a silent auction where we contact organizations asking for them to provide big ticket items that we could sell at the fundraising event, and then we would have money for however many kids throughout the year and then continue doing different fundraising events like that. We could contact local agencies that may implement a new clothing resource. So we do have a program. We have a resource called the Heart Locker, where they provide clothing to low-income families here in the Flathead Valley. However, they're donation-based, and so it looks a whole lot more like a thrift store, and the clothing is still out of date and not always up to par in its quality, I guess. So maybe they would implement new clothing if we could find the resources and the funding for that, because they do have the client base that needs the items. And then At the Flathead Youth Home itself, we do have a private grant writer that helps with a lot of our funding. So I could contact our organizational grant writer and see if there was a grant that she could write, particularly for clothing for our kids. The reason that I chose this case in particular is because it's relevant. This is an issue that is widespread. It's an issue that I see in the majority of the kids that we serve. Probably at least 75 of the kids that we serve at the Flathead Youth Home come in with inadequate clothing. And it's influential in their lives. It changes their confidence, their self-esteem, the way that they interact with peers and build relationships, because teenagers are awful. Bullying is awful, and fitting in is pretty important for youth these days, any days. And it's possible. My interventions are feasible. They're not out of the question. And so I really feel like a solution could be obtained. So my questions to leave you with are: what hindered your self-esteem in middle school and high school? Did you always want to fit in? Did you want to wear the same clothes as your peers and look the same way? How important is fitting into a youth's mental status, do you think? Do you think that their mental health would be improved or the same if they were to have, if they were to be able to look like their peers and fit in the same way rather than standing out with just the inadequate clothing currently? And then what does your community do for this problem? Do you have resources in place better than we do here? How does your town go about this issue?